What if the most dangerous confrontation between the United States and Iran did not begin with missiles, but with assumptions? What if the loudest threats were never meant to be carried out, yet still pushed the world closer to war than most people realize? And what if the real showdown was never simply Trump versus Iran, but something far deeper about power, fear, and a global system that survives by keeping conflict permanently unfinished? Most people remember the headlines, angry speeches, sanctions announced with dramatic flair, military warnings, and one assassination that made the world stop and stare at breaking news screens. But very few people pause to ask the uncomfortable question. Why did this confrontation escalate so quickly, and why did it suddenly stop just short of full-scale war? The answers are not simple, and they are not immediate. They are buried under decades of history, strategic calculations, and delayed consequences that only become visible when the noise fades. Welcome to its financial history too. To understand what really happened, you have to go back long before Donald Trump ever stepped into the Oval Office. The relationship between the United States and Iran was not always hostile. In the early Cold War era, Iran was seen as a critical piece on the global chessboard. In 1953, the CIA helped overthrow Iran's democratically elected prime minister after he attempted to nationalize the country's oil industry. The Shah was put back in power, Western oil interests were protected, and Washington believed it had secured stability. What it actually secured was resentment that would take decades to explode. That explosion came in 1979 with the Iranian Revolution. The Shah was overthrown, the Islamic Republic was established, and overnight Iran transformed from a U.S. ally into a sworn adversary. The hostage crisis burned the image of Iran into the American psyche as an enemy state. From that moment forward, mistrust was no longer temporary, it became institutional. For decades, both sides learned how to fight without fully fighting. Sanctions replaced invasion. Proxy wars replaced direct conflict. Iran expanded its influence through regional allies, while the United States relied on economic pressure and military presence to contain it. This balance was unstable, but it was familiar. And familiarity in geopolitics often feels safer than change. By the time Donald Trump became president in 2017, this uneasy system was already in place. But Trump did not believe in managing systems quietly. He believed in breaking them loudly. During his campaign, Trump repeatedly attacked the Iran nuclear deal, calling it a disaster and a symbol of American weakness. To his supporters, the deal represented everything they hated about establishment politics. To his critics, it was an imperfect but vital agreement that delayed a nuclear crisis. When Trump withdrew from the deal in 2018, it was not just a policy shift. It was a signal that the old rules no longer applied. Sanctions returned with unprecedented force. Iran's oil exports were choked. Its banking system was isolated. Its economy was squeezed from nearly every direction. The assumption in Washington was clear: economic pain would force political submission. But that assumption misunderstood something fundamental about Iran's history. Pressure does not break the Iranian system. It hardens it. As the sanctions intensified, Iran did not collapse. Instead, it responded in ways that were indirect, deniable, and carefully measured. Oil tankers were attacked in strategic waterways. Drones were shot down. Proxy groups increased pressure on U.S. interests in the region. Each move sent a message, but none crossed the line into open war. This was not chaos, it was choreography. Both sides were escalating, but neither side wanted to lose control. Trump wanted leverage without entanglement. Iran wanted deterrence without destruction. And for a time, that balance held until one decision shattered the pattern. In January 2020, the United States launched a drone strike that killed General Qasem Soleimani. This was not just another military action. Soleimani was one of the most powerful figures in Iran, responsible for shaping its regional strategy and influence. To many Iranians, he was a national hero. To Washington, he was a mastermind behind attacks on U.S. interests. The assassination sent shockwaves across the world. Analysts openly discussed the possibility of World War III. Oil prices surged. Markets trembled. Governments prepared contingency plans. This, many believed, was the point of no return. Iran vowed revenge. The language was fierce. The threats were explicit. Everything about the moment suggested that war was inevitable. And then something unexpected happened. Iran responded with missile strikes on U.S. bases in Iraq, but with advanced signals that reduced casualties. The message was unmistakable. Iran was demonstrating capability, without triggering catastrophe. It was retaliation designed to restore deterrence, not to ignite total war. Trump responded not with bombs, but with more sanctions. He declared victory. Iran declared survival. And the confrontation, which seemed moments away from consuming the region, suddenly cooled. This raised a deeper mystery. If both sides were willing to go this far, why did neither side take the final step? The answer lies in what happened next, when the cameras turned away. The killing of Soleimani did not end Iran's regional influence. It did not bring Iran back to the negotiating table on U.S. terms. Instead, it reshaped the boundaries of what was considered acceptable. High-level assassinations were normalized. Escalation became faster. Trust in diplomacy collapsed even further. Iran accelerated parts of its nuclear program. The region became more unstable, and the cycle that had existed for decades quietly resumed, only now with fewer guardrails. The fixes that were supposed to work did not work. Sanctions did not force surrender. Military strikes did not create lasting deterrence. Diplomatic agreements were abandoned before they could evolve. Each solution treated the conflict as a technical problem, when in reality it was a structural one. Iran views resistance as essential to its identity and survival. The United States views dominance as necessary for global stability. These worldviews do not overlap. And when neither side is willing to address that reality, every crisis becomes a pause rather than an ending. This is not unique to Iran. Around the world today, similar patterns are playing out. Economic warfare replaces traditional conflict. Sanctions are used as weapons. Proxy forces fight where major powers will not. Leaders trade threats while carefully avoiding irreversible escalation. The Trump versus Iran confrontation was not an exception. It was a preview of how modern power struggles are managed. History shows that these cycles do not end because people get wiser. They end because someone miscalculates. The real lesson of this showdown is not that war was avoided. It is that danger was normalized. When repeated crises fail to explode, leaders begin to believe that escalation is safe. And that belief is far more dangerous than any single confrontation. There are three truths that emerge when the noise fades. First, this conflict was never about one man or one country. It was about systems colliding, economic pressure against ideological resistance, and neither system knows how to back down without losing face. Second, escalation without resolution creates the illusion of control. Each crisis that ends without war makes the next one easier to risk until restraint finally fails. Third, when diplomacy collapses, assumptions replace understanding. And assumptions are the most volatile weapons of all. The ultimate showdown did not end with peace or destruction. It ended with unanswered questions and a world still balanced on the same fault lines. The real question is not whether Trump and Iran avoided war. It is whether the next confrontation will be as restrained. If you want to understand how power, history, and hidden incentives shape the world's most dangerous conflicts, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts below. Because the forces driving tomorrow's crises are already in motion and ignoring them has never come without consequences.